I took office, the national debt went from $1 to $4 trillion. We had never had a debt expansion like that in peacetime before. We were being talked tough to, but we were being treated like children. Yes. You can eat all the candy you want, and you never have to go to the dentist. So I sent you to the dentist, made a lot of people mad, but we got 4 surplus budgets, paid $600 billion down on the national debt, and if they had just kept my budget, we'd be out of debt by 2015 for the first time since Andrew Jackson was president. Now, they talk about the size of government. In 28 years, you had 8 years of us, 20 of them before President Obama took office. The smallest government you ever had was the day I left office. It was the same size it was when Dwight Eisenhower was president in 1960. We didn't lay any public employees off. We worked with them to use more technology, to have structured retirements, and we put the money into the future, into the education of our children, into new technology, into new jobs. And we did it with the support of the public employees because we were in the future business. So, here's what I have to say about where we are now. We've tested these ideas, theirs and ours. Ours work better. Yeah. And there can hardly be a more dramatic difference. So let's look at the jobs issue. First, the stimulus. The Republican stick is that stimulus failed because it didn't get us out of the hole, right? Well, the hole was $3 trillion. The stimulus was $800 billion, and 2/3 of the stimulus was designed to help you swim in the hole without drowning, not to get us out of it. It was a tax cut to 100 million families so they could go to the grocery store and keep the local grocer open, and it was money to state and local governments to keep the police officers and the teachers and the healthcare workers on the job, not taking their job. The only part of that was, this is really important because I know what they're saying there. The only part of that was devoted to creating new jobs was about 1/3 of it, $272 billion. You can't fill a $3 trillion hole with $272 billion. Right. But it did put us back in the race for world leadership for green energy jobs and solar and wind. Yeah. It did put us back into building our infrastructure, and it created more jobs than the experts said it would, and the unemployment rate today is 2 points lower than it would have been if it hadn't been for the stimulus. Now, Kendrick Meek knows that, that's why he voted for it. His opponent says we ought to cancel those stimulus projects. It'll cost us tens of thousands of jobs, and we'll lose a lot of our gains in the race for a green energy future. Big difference. We have, our position is, we Democrats, is that we should give tax credits and loan guarantees to small business, to manufacturers, to green energy and the high-tech companies to build an economy that will have growing jobs. Their position is we ought to get rid of everything we've done for green energy. It's all fluff. It doesn't amount to hill of beans. The only thing that matters is making Bill Clinton's temporary tax cut permanent. I love saying this. I didn't have any money before I got out of the White House. This tax cut portion they're fighting over, the top 2%, 84% of that money, more than $600 billion, will go to people who had taxable incomes of $1 million or more. Now, I can tell you, you talk to any economist, they will tell you the single most inefficient thing you can do if you want to put a country back to work is give a tax cut to people who've already got plenty of money. They cannot spend the money, they won't spend the money. I'd rather spend it on the education of the students at the University of South Florida, on green energy, on bringing solar and wind to Florida, on lowering the utility bills of every homeowner by making their homes more efficient, and cutting the 25% unemployment rate among construction workers down to 5%. He can do it if you really organize this right. That's what I'd rather do. That's what he supports. There's a clear difference here. So the bottom line is this. If you want to get more jobs, you've got to do more where the jobs are. And if that's what you want, you don't have a choice. You should vote for Kendrick Meek for the United States. Secondly, we got to make sure people can take the jobs. And there are two issues here. The first one is there are 3 million jobs posted today where people are prepared to hire you today that have been vacant for a month or more. Hard to believe, isn't it? Now the reason is, we all know stories about 500 people showing up to apply for one job. The reason is, a lot of them are like small manufacturers that want to hire 22 and die workers, and 500 people show up, but only 2 of them trained to do 2 and die work. We should, the federal government, give every state in America, every month, a list of every job that's been open a month or more, and give them the money to train people to do the job, and say, do whatever you want to. Give it to a community college, give it to a certified labor training program, give it to the employer if you want to. Train these people, fill these jobs that would lower the unemployment rate from 90 to 10. What's that got to do with this rate? The Republican budget calls for cutting $100 billion a year out of everything but Medicare, Defense, and Veterans Affairs. There ain't that much left. That means a minimum cut of 25% to 50% in all federal aid to education and training. You can forget about this training program. You think there'll be 3 million jobs. Pretty soon we'll have 4 or 5 million jobs where people are trying to hire people in this recession and we can't train them to do the job. So if you want people trained to do these jobs, you don't have much of a choice. You need to vote for Kendrick Meek for the United States Senate. Now this is the biggest thing of all for the college students. So I want you to listen to this, because this is a big problem. You know, every time you see these polls, they are pictures that are accurate in terms of the people that got polled. But the people that got polled are the people that they think will vote. So last year we had a 58% turnout in the presidential race, about a 60% turnout among African Americans. It's the first time nationwide that they've been above the average. A really neat thing. And so they say this time the turnout will drop from 58 to 43% as a whole. 25% drop. Wait, it's worse. But they think the African American turnout will drop from 60 to 36. Wow. And they believe that, all these pollsters believe this. And last year, younger voters between 18 and 24, 45% of them voted. They estimate that only 20% of younger voters will vote. So here is what I want to say to every student here. This is the most important thing no one knows. In this decade, for the first time in my lifetime, we dropped from 1st to 9th in the percentage of American adults with 4-year college degrees. 12th among young adults. Now, most jobs don't require a 4-year degree, but people with 4-year degrees create most jobs. You know what I mean? They create the ideas and the movement, and so this is a huge deal. It's like a recipe for disaster. Now, the interesting thing is, why did this happen? We are still #1 in the percentage of our young people going to college. They drop out over and over and over again because they can't take any more debt on. They just think they'll never be able to repay their debt. Okay, so the Congress passed and the President signed the most sweeping student loan reform bill since the GI Bill passed at the end of World War II. Let me tell you what it does. It's very important that you know this, especially the young people. This bill takes a program I started on an experimental basis. It says, instead of paying huge middleman fees to banks to guarantee these loans, we'll just set aside a loan reserve fund in the Department of Education and send the money to the University of South Florida and let them give the loans to the qualified students. And that will lower their bill. When we did it before, the average student saved $1,300 on every $10,000 they had to repay. It's a lot of money. But far more important, for the first time ever, every